Hello, I'm Otto, and welcome to episode 1 of my Factorio quality playthrough. I'm going to try not to call these a guide, but I mean, I'm going to be treating them like a guide, so whatever. So in the last episode, in episode 0, I really like having an episode 0. It just kind of sets the stage for what's to come. Anyways, in episode 0, yeah, we set up this large starter base. It is something that I've recently developed, and I gotta say this is the first time that I've actually played with it in a game, and I am very happy with the way it turned out. Like this is fantastic. Like being able to access early boss is great. All of the additional things, the blue and the military science being added into it is fantastic. Love it. Yeah, so I spent probably like 9 hours in yesterday's episode, even though it was only a 25-minute video. And the biggest reason is because I am also doing the Keeping Your Hands Clean achievement, where we are not allowed to destroy any biter spawners until we access the artillery on Volcanus. So we cannot have any of them die. So I know we can't really see this, but I have blocked all of the spawners in most of the area that we will end up needing, and prevented any raiding parties from coming to add more. So as you can see, this is not spawning anything. And as far as the greater map goes, now unfortunately I had to go pretty far north to find a good choke point and to kind of block this off, which meant I had some really big, this one was nasty, really big nasty nests and lots and lots and lots of pipes, as you can see. But I did need to go up this high, because I kind of realized that even though I had picked this map, the seed, for a very specific reason. Oh, and speaking of the seed, I completely forgot to add that into the description of episode 0. So I'll add that into this description and episode 0's description. So if you were looking for that, I know it was like you were able to see it up on the screen while I was starting the episode, but whatever, it is what it is. But I kind of specifically picked this seed. I probably, not gonna lie, I probably doom scrolled like 3 hours looking for a seed that I really wanted, and this one was just gonna end up being good enough. Unfortunately, a lot of the iron is pretty far out, and I needed to go up this high to make sure that I could collect the copper and the iron. There just wasn't a good choke point anywhere in here that would allow me to do that. It was all past this, so I did have to do that. But I do have every single bit of this walled off. There's a wall down here. Thankfully, this ended up not being anything. A little bit of a wall here, here, a wall coming over here, and a wall coming over here. And in some cases, I did go outside if there was a biter nest kind of close by and block those off. I think there was another one here. So I did block some of them off that were just outside my wall, but they all have gun turrets just to kind of get rid of any potential expansion parties. We do have biter expansion turned on. Anyways, enough about that. Let's get into this episode. So, like I said, this is very much a quality focused episode. So I need to try to get into quality as soon as I can. And whenever it comes to quality, I'm largely not talking about my starter base. I am mostly leaving this as is. Maybe I will probably end up putting some quality modules in some of the machines for items that we definitely will be using. For instance, the inserters, the miners, maybe the labs, the repair packs, like not the belts. Upgrading the quality on those is completely pointless, but you know, some of the machines. Anything that's direct inserted in here is not going to get any quality modules at all. And if you've ever been on Reddit and you've seen anyone complaining about quality, you will know that there are certain issues that you will end up having. One, it's not like upcycling. Upcycling is pretty straightforward and pretty easy. Over time, you will eventually get 25% of the materials back when you're recycling. And so it should balance out over time. Yes, there's always the possibility that you might have more of one thing than another. In my last playthrough, I was never anywhere near coming across that. I would have probably had to have played for several hundred more hours before I ever had any like really glaring issues with the probability factor for a lot of the stuff that we were upcycling. the hard part whenever it comes to like trying to play with quality completely like across the board. So like your miners have quality, your smelters have quality, your sorry, not your smelters, your electric furnaces have quality, your, you know, foundries, your assembling machines, everything has quality. And then there's some things that you don't want to have quality. For instance, like the belts, we don't really care. We don't want them to be gobbling up quality. But then, you know, if you have, let's just take a simple inserter as an example. So the blue inserter, the fast inserter, needs 3 different things in quality. It needs iron plates, which is going to be straightforward. There's like a 2-step process to get to iron plates. It needs electric circuits, green circuits. So these have to be quality, but then it also needs an inserter, a yellow inserter. So you're going to have a situation where, for instance, you might have a ton of iron plates, but you don't have any of the inserters. And these are piling up while you're waiting for this. So there's going to be some, like, you know, offset items. You're never going to be perfectly ratioed. You're going to have to deal with the extras at some point in some way. And that is a huge dilemma for most people if they're actually trying to focus on quality. I said in the last episode that, you know, quality, the game kind of tries to keep, sorry, doesn't try. The game pretty much treats quality as if it's 2 separate items. So if I have, let's say, quality iron ore, if I have green quality, then this is an item. The green quality is an item. The blue quality is an item. The purple and the orange, the legendary. These are 5 different items, and the game treats them kind of like 5 different items, basically. There are some exceptions to that, like science packs are a pretty good one. Like they just kind of take whatever. And smelters will just kind of accept whatever's there, since they kind of change their own recipe. And, you know, so there's some exceptions, but for the most part, if this is making normal quality, it's going to only accept normal quality ingredients. So that means that if you're making, for instance, an inserter, I shouldn't have used the blue ones. I shouldn't have used the fast ones. I should have used the yellow ones as an example. But you're waiting, for instance, for, you're waiting for iron plates. You're waiting for gears. You're waiting for the green circuits. Well, what do you do with the blue quality of all, or the, you know, green quality of all the stuff that you have here? What do you do with the blue quality of all the stuff that you have? Do you make 3 different or 4 or 5 different versions? Do you make normal quality, hoping that you can upcycle them later? Do you make the green quality to kind of keep the green items in check? Do you make the blue, and same with the blue, same with the purple, same with the orange? So those are a lot of the things that we're going to have to explore in this series, and I hope to kind of get to that point pretty soon, pretty fast. Okay, rambling done. Let's get into what we're dealing with. So we need to make some quality first off. Second, I would like to get to the point where we can actually make some electric furnaces. Now, I opted to just leave all of this basically as is. Like if you have my blueprint, if you've joined my Discord and gotten the blueprint for the starter base, then this is nearly identical. Like I did craft this, like recraft this from scratch by hand. There are some kind of minor issues, like for instance, whenever I had to tear all this down and shift it over by 1 tile, I think the science was over by 1 tile as well. I think the green was supposed to start here. Whatever, in some cases, doesn't matter. In that case, it mattered a little bit because of the stuff that happened here. But for this, I definitely had to shift all this over. But for the most part, if you have this blueprint, this is exactly what you've gotten. This is exactly what you have. And so I didn't want to add anything to it until we got to this episode 1. So we are totally going to have to do some funky stuff, like basically spaghetti, to try to wiggle some of this in here. For starters, we have 6 assembling machines making red circuits, and these each take 0.25 plastic. So that's 1.5 plastic per second total. This machine makes 2 per second. So we do have a little bit of wiggle room. So we can actually add in 2 more assembling machines for red circuits. The downside is if we're adding in 2 more, this 6 of these and 1 of these is to ratio, so we're going to have to get some more copper cables at some point. We're actually just going to cheat a little bit, and we're just going to steal from... We're going to steal from this guy. We don't necessarily need the green circuits crafting at like full capacity, so this is going to be perfectly acceptable. These two can now get their copper cables in from here. This. Let's just do like this. So now these are going to get the plastic and the green circuits from that line over there. Okay, so that's going to be a little bit of extra because we're going to need all the red circuits that we can get. We can just say, let's go underground here. And these can go out there. And then all we need is some power and good to go. So there's some additional red circuits. So what do we need the red circuits for? Well, we need the red circuits for quality modules. We have green circuits that we need and red circuits that we need. Thankfully, we do have, obviously, both of them up here. But we're going to have to do some stuff to try to, you know, squeeze out as much of this as we can. So I'm going to add this here. This can take from red circuits and this can take from green circuits. That is going to be our quality modules. Now, obviously, if you saw, I do have some extras. So I am going to... Like, I did some stuff around the base after episode 0, which I'll get into shortly. So while I was doing that, I did let some of the red circuits and green circuits pile up. So I can give this to them. And we are not limiting the output. You go ahead and make as many as you can, and that is good to go. Okay, so one of the other things that I really want to make before we get started on a couple of the other things is I want to make some electric furnaces. Now, this is going to be rough because we have to get steel plate. Steel plate line is up here, and I do have it coming in over towards this side as well, which is right here. And this is where it ends. So we're going to have to do some funky stuff to be able to get this through over to here. And the other part is, you know what? Let's do it like this. Yeah, that's gonna be a little bit better for wiggling some of this out. And then I have some stone brick here. Now, we do have a little bit more of a problem with stone brick, which I'll get into shortly, but for now, we can at least take care of this. Excuse me. Thank you. I did not mean to go that far. Anyways, whatever. Yeah, spaghetti that in there. Okay, and that's going to take care of red circuits. Red circuits and stone brick. So now we just need to do some really funky stuff to get the steel in here. So we can move these. This can come down. There's our steel. This can move over. And I can add this back in. Where did those go? I lost them. I lost the bots. Am I just blind? Oof. Okay. So that is another problem solved. This can go back here. And that is our steel. I just need an output box. And we're going to need a lot of these. Like, this is 50 per stack, so it's 100, 300. Now, those of you that have seen my content before, you know that I like to go big. Well, okay, I'm not going to... Not necessarily go big. You know that I like to overproduce. I'm a huge fan of overproducing. And the first quality modules are going to go back into quality. We can add some in there. That's going to cause ratio problems if we use any of those. But you know what? We might as well start the process, right? Anyways, what was I saying? So I generally like to make things, I like to overproduce. If I need 10 per second of something, well, I'm going to make 15 or 20 per second of it, because it's always better to have too much than not enough. Whatever you end up making, you're going to need somewhere else anyways, most of the time. And this is going to be one of those cases where I'm going to try to keep things to a minimum. I tend to prefer to make things modular. So if I can make something modular, I'm just going to make maybe like one module of it, one small section, just so that we can kind of like get through more of the content. I know I've been rambling a lot in this episode, but do have some things to cover. Yeah, so I'm going to, for instance, like if you've seen, me set up a long line of, for the red circuits as an example, I tend to make massive, massive sections for red circuits. Maybe I only make one, continue on and go do something else, try to cram as much as we can into an episode, and then just, you can assume after the fact that I'm going to go through and beef that up to whatever quantity it is that I need, or maybe I'll just hold off on adding anything to it until we actually need it. That's maybe a little bit better way of doing things. So because we were playing on default settings, oh boy, and it took me so long. Like I said, it took me about 9 hours total to get the starter base set up, get out of the burner phase, and spawn block all of these biter nests. Yeah, we started suffering pretty bad on the resource department. As you can see, our stone, which was over here, is gone, completely mined out. And our iron is pretty close. We only have 50,000 ore left. So we're going to need to get some of this soon. And obviously, I don't want to necessarily show you guys the things that you've seen in every single playthrough. You don't have to see the burner phase again. You don't have to see someone set up like a mining section again. So I have taken the time to, I have taken the time to go ahead and start setting some of that stuff up, and I will continue to set some of that up after. But yay, we have stone. There we go. I also have some coal over here, so, just to kind of prep for when we need it. You guys got power? You guys got power? Awesome. Okay, so I am going to go to a clear section, and also do note that I have also set up an iron mine here. I'm probably going to tap these two as well, and same with the copper. I haven't set the copper up yet, but I'm going to tap probably both of these. So you can expect me to collect all of these. But I'm going to go to an open area, because part of setting things up is organization, and I like to be organized, and we're going to need some extra space. So if you've seen I'm going to call it a city block. Okay, somebody called me out on this for my episode 6 in my Space Age playthrough, my Space Age guide. They were like, that is not a true city block. And I was like, you know what? You're right. But you know what? This is kind of what we call a city block now. Like, the definition has kind of changed over time. So I'll go into what a true city block is and some of the ones that I've used in the past. And kind of, we're going to figure out one that we're going to use now. I'm going to need a little bit of extra room, and thankfully my last playthrough was a good kind of test. There were a lot of things that I was testing out in that specifically for this playthrough. One of them being, as an example, having almost all of everything that I made was on one side of the bus, the top side, and that was largely because I was testing for quality purposes. Because in general, your factory is going to be probably roughly double the size that it normally would be, all because of having to deal with quality. So I'm going to go to an open clearing. I will see you back in a second. Okay, and we're back. So I am in a very large area that I have already started clearing out with a bunch of grenades. Again, we're getting past the tedious, boring stuff. So we are going to make a new city block, and I'm going to try not to call it a city block. I'm going to try to call it a Roboport grid, which is probably more accurately what it is. So the term city block comes from, well, let's just use this as an example. This is the city block. This is the Roboport grid that I used in my very first playthrough, my very first guide. So normally an actual legitimate city block is not surrounded, well, I mean, it is surrounded by power poles, but it's normally actually surrounded by a rail system. So the idea of a city block is you use this section to build one item and only one item, and you have it hooked up to this rail system, and the rail system, you know, just kind of all, it connects similar to this. It's all snapped to grid, so that literally all you have to do is, if you want to make this item again, you take that blueprint and you snap it down over here. And then you want to make more of those, well, then you take that same blueprint, let's say it was a red circuit build, and you snap it down over here. That is a true actual city block, but that's not how, like, we just generally don't refer to it. Like, nobody plays like that anymore unless you're playing like a crazy mod like Pyanodons. Like, I believe city blocks are still relatively common in Pyanodons. So this was the first city block that Roboport grid that I used for my first guide. It's very similar to maybe what a standard city block Roboport grid would be. In that the Roboports are exactly spaced apart from each other. So let me get some of this on my bars. So for instance, this is not going to be powered, but oh, it is. So you can see the gap between where they connect and where they don't. That is what I'm referring to. The standard Roboport grid city block. Oh, come on. Is spaced out like this. So it would be something like, excuse me, that is, what? No, 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 no. Copy. There we go. So it would be something like this. And that would be the foundations for your grid. I am so bad at my controls right now. What am my mic is in the way and I can't see my keyboard. Whatever it is, what it is. So in the last guide that I made, oh my goodness, I don't know if you guys can hear that. Somebody's not having a good time outside. Kids fighting and screaming. Anyways, so I decided to make a much, much smaller one. And if you watched that last guide that I made, this thing, I loved it. I loved it to death. The downside of it was we have big electric power poles on the bottom side of the Roboports, which means that when you're using this, you can't rotate it because you start to get into situations where now things don't line up. So after fiddling with it, and there were a couple of, for the most part, I was able to keep everything confined into this section. And the way that this section was set up was just, it's the distance that yes, it was supposed to be anyways. It's the distance apart that these things can naturally be dragged. There it is. So that was kind of the reasoning for me making this particular Roboport grid. And I want to kind of do that again, but I can give myself a little bit of extra room. And the way that we're going to set that up is we're going to have we're basically going to do the exact same thing. So I'm going to have this at max length. Copy and paste that in. We're going to add in the red and green circuits. You don't necessarily have to, because the radars are really awesome for doing the exact same thing, and they don't even cost that much. But just in case you wanted to do it, I'm going to set up a blueprint to have this all connected. I'm personally probably going to remove these after. I'm just going to use radars. So if you want to keep them, you can keep them. If not, you know what? I'll do a version of both. And so instead of having the Roboport on the top, we're going to give ourselves a little bit of extra room. I'm going to have this on the corner. So this is going to space the Roboports out just a little bit more. It's going to give us slightly more room because now I won't feel as bad about having to like hop over the Roboports like in this middle section. And more importantly, this is now actually rotatable, so we can flip this around. So aside from just this, we also want to make sure that I do not have it unlocked yet. We want to make sure that this is going to line up with our rails. So I'm going to add this to my bars so that we can just ghost this in. And I know from experience that I don't think I want this to line up like this. This lineup is fine. I don't want this, like I want these to be part of this dotted line. I don't want this to line up like this though. Anyways, let's make the blueprint and we can figure this out. So we're going to snap to grid and this is too far. So let's go, I don't know, 38 and 38. Okay, that's going to line up perfectly. We want this to be 2, 2, and we want this to be an absolute 0, 0 grid. Probably. Okay, so just because I'm gonna disable my bots, I don't want them placing that. I want this to stay remain ghostly. Yes, okay. All right, so back to this. This needed to be lined up right in the middle. That's perfect. This, I think we needed it to not be lined up perfectly. So this is 15. So I'm going to remove 5 and 5. Yeah, this is definitely not going to line up like I want. I mean, we could do it this way. Just have an extra. No, no, no. I'm going to do it my way. Okay, so I need this to be shifted. Do I want to do it this way? Yes. So we're going to shift it from the absolute grid by 1, 1. And hopefully that worked out. No, we are still in the middle of the Roboport. Or we are, sorry, in the middle of the Roboport. And I don't want that, but I do want this to be kind of partialed. So, which axis do we need? We need, I mean, who am I kidding? I probably got that wrong either way. Yep, totally got that wrong. Go me. Okay, try this again. That's, oh, come on. Did I need to be 0, 0? No. $14. So let's get rid of 5 and 5. So this is what I do need. But I also need it to line up here. Tell you what, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to unsnap this. And we're going to see if we can eyeball line this up. Yeah, there's no way I get this right. That is not. Or can I make it work? You know what? Let's just give it a shot. Yeah, that's not going to work. Well, we might just have to leave it like this. Excuse me, why are you not there? Okay, and that is basic. Okay, I am rotating it and it is fine. The rails, oh boy. Okay, now you're lined up. Oh, because I did 1-1. Yeah, that's how I want that set up. That is lined up there, that is lined up there, that is lined up there. Oh boy. Alright, let's just play this out a little bit and see. See how this is going to work out. Alright, so there will be a little bit of overhang. It is what it is. But yeah, so I'm happy with this city block. I'm really hoping that... Oh, what am I doing? I don't need to deal with this yet. Hopefully this is going to work out. So our Roboport grid will be something like this, and that will allow me to, for instance, set up a section in the middle. This is 8 wide. I had a really hard time getting things 8 wide before because I was lining it up with the Roboport, which was here and here. And we needed belts coming in, belts going out, the ability to do some stuff. Anyways, we do not need that anymore, and I have at least one extra space, and at worst, maybe 3 extra spaces on each side. Whew, okay, now that we've gotten past that. Lots back, thank you. Okay, so that is going to be it for me for this episode. In the next episode, we are going to very briefly start setting up a smelting area with quality. We need to add quality to our miners, so I might take a little extra time just making sure that I have... I mean, I'm going to need a ton of quality modules. Like, I don't even think I have enough materials over here to get as many as we need. Yeah, I'm gonna have to set this iron up. So I'm gonna hook this iron up, and in the next episode we'll start setting up a smelting area over in this section here. I've already started clearing it out. I have not figured out exactly where it's gonna be, but we will figure that out. Okay, that is it for me. I will see you in the next episode, and thanks for watching.